Welcome to this video, which is a very simple tutorial of Python for data analysis that is made for complete beginners. Additionally, what I am writing here today from a programming perspective is based on my blog post that's on the Udemy blog, and for sure you can check it out. I'll leave the link in the description. If you like this material and others, I'll also leave the link for my secret discount portal, which has all of my courses at the lowest price I can offer. That being said, let's kick it off. What you need to do to repeat what I'm doing is to come to the Google Drive, because Google has this app that allows us to program in Python. So after you're there, and feel free to pause here, what you're going to do is click on New, and then More, and then Google Collaboratory. If you don't find it, you need to go to More and search for the app and then install it. But it should be fairly straightforward. What I want to do now is to zoom in. 175% seems fine. One peculiarity that I have is that, what language is this? This is German, because I do live in Germany, though I'm Portuguese. And what happens, and this is actually odd, is that for some reason, every time that I start this Google Collaboratory, and it comes in German for some reason. And here you go. So I'm just going to change it Python for data analysis. And here you go. Now, this is super nice because we can actually create subsections. It works really well. And in the end, you get this very organized programming script. So for instance, I'm going to click here on text and then double click to enter or edit. Now I'm going to put here hashtag because this signals that I'm starting a section. And I'm just going to call it libraries and data. So this first section is just a preparation. Libraries and data. Here we go. To continue, you can click, for instance, on Shift Enter, and it will go to the cell below. Now, I'm going to import a couple of libraries. Import libraries. Libraries are these tools that allow us to do, for instance, data analysis in Python. It's these extra sets of functions that people have created to make our lives easier. And I'm going to import two. So import pandas as PD. Pandas is great for data manipulation, also super simple visualization or statistics. And then I'm going to import Seaborn as SNS. Seaborn is this library for medium visualizations, meaning that they're super simple for us to do, but they require a bit extra work that we could not do with pandas. And you can also see that I'm doing this as PD as SNS. And the reason is that every time that I use them, I need to call them. I need to specify that I'm using that library. And if I'm not creating this short form, then the code could become cluttered in a way, very, very full. So this is the goal. And Pandas and Seaborn are actually small libraries, or libraries with a small name. But there are some other libraries which have long names, and it is particularly for those. That being said, I need to run this. To run this, we are going to do Shift Enter. And now I'm going to import the data. Import data. You can see here, if our command works, you can see here, the yes, the Nike yes, and you can also see here at the bottom, completed. Then we need to import data. So I'm going to call it data. And now I need a function to import the data. So I use pandas and then read underscore CSV open parentheses. To make it easier for you to follow me, I have put our data set in the web, meaning that I've created a short link for you to just use it. So if you do and follow me, you put in quotes https and then colon, 2 slashes, and then bit.ly and then slash Udemy and then data set. So this is it. I'm going to do Shift Enter once more. Here we go. It worked. And then I want to look at the data. Look at the data. Here we go. And to do it is crazy simple. So we just do data dot head and then parentheses. And here you go. So the case study, it is about infidelity. So how many people, or better yet, how many affairs do people have? And then we have the characteristics of those people. And of course, it can also be that people have no affairs or claim that they have no affairs. That being said, we also have some other characteristics. So the gender, the age, the years that they've been married, whether they have children. Then we have religiousness, which is how much people say they are religious. This is from a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very religious. Then we have education, and it's a number here, but it was actually made in 2 brackets, meaning that it's 9, 12, 16, 17, and it's all dependent on what or how much they've studied. So 9 would be for middle school, 12 for high school, 16 for college, 17 for graduates, and so on. You can have also look, I do describe all of them in the blog post, which again, you can see in the link of the description of this video. Then you have occupation, which is the trickiest one, but the key idea is that from 1 to 7, it rates it in terms of complexity, so to say. So 1 is student, and then 7 would be a CEO of a large corporation. And then rating is how much people say that they're happy on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very happy. And of course, I do mean about the marriage. Continuing, one thing that's very common is for us to look at the summary statistics, meaning the mean, the standard deviation, and this is super simple here. So I'll also start here a new section, which I'll call data analysis, and do Shift Enter. And then I'm going to do data.describe. Here we go. And then I want to do Control Enter. And here we go. So what we see here the count. So this is how many observations we have for each of the variables. We have the mean, which is average, STD, which, by the way, terrible name for standard deviation, but since we talk about infidelity, kind of makes sense. Then we have the minimum, and then we have the maximum, and we have the quartiles, with 50% being also the median. And what we can say, so on average, a person has 1.5 affairs, is 32 years old, has been married for 8 years. By the way, this is a long time ago, like, I don't know, 60 or 70 years. That's why people at the age of 32 have been married for 8 years on average. They declare that, neither religious or, rate average on religious, do have education, so college level. The occupation I'm here not going to rate because it doesn't really make sense, because who am I or who are they to rate complexity? And then we have rating. So people do claim that they're happy in their marriage. However, there are some other things we can conclude. So if you look at the affairs, we can see that, first, second, and third quartile, people claim that they do not have affairs. And this leads us to say, actually, it's just a fraction of the people that have affairs. And hence we can go to the next step in our analysis, which is, okay, let's actually have a look at the affairs and see how it is distributed. And before that, let me just include here as a comment. So a comment is something that you do for the future to see what you're actually doing. It's very helpful. I do it a lot. And here goes, summary statistics. And whenever I see that I don't do it, I actually go back and do it, because for me it's very important to be organized. And to go back, so we're going to do an histogram, because it's the easiest way to see how variables are distributed. And it's super simple to do one histogram. We're going to use Seaborn, and then use the function histplot, and then data equals, and then here we just specify data dot affairs. And here you go. So Control Enter. And you can see that majority of people is in 0. Then we have 2, 3, and here at 7 and at 12. What's important to know is that the people who did this study, they grouped the affairs, meaning that if people had between 4 and 10, they would group around 7. That's why you have a peak here at 7. And if it was like 11, 12 or more, they would group at, around 11. And this was the general idea. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot. I think this grouping hurts our visualization and what we can interpret out of the data. But there are some other things that we can do. One thing that I like to do is see how variables correlate with one another. So I'm going to pick a few variables to do a correlation. And then we are going to visualize it. And this will be the last part of this very simple tutorial. We're going to visualize it using a heat map so that it looks nice and colorful and shiny. So we are going to do, so pick variables. So pick variables for correlation. And let's see what we pick. So affairs, definitely. I also want to have a look at age and how this connects. I also think it would be interesting to see the rating and the religiousness. We could have as well years married, but yeah, I'm going to keep it with 4. So affairs, age, religiousness, and rating. This would be it. So pick variables for correlation. I'm going to create this new data frame. So data underscore correlation equals 2. And then I need to go to my data set, and to pick, I'm going to do double square brackets. And then here I just enumerate what I want. So affairs, and then age. Next, it would be religiousness. And then finally, the rating. To see what we get, we do data underscore correlation. And we do dot head once more. And to choose the number of observations, you include inside. And I'm just going to do with 1. So Control Enter. And here we go. So we see here a new data frame with just 4 columns. And I did Control Enter. So this means that I did not create a new cell code. But here, if I over here, then I can click on code, which I then do my correlation heat map. And I use Seaborn and then heat map, and then data equals to data underscore correlation. And what I need to do is that I need to perform a command for correlation, which is super simple. Dot core open parentheses. So let me include here as a comment, core is the correlation function. Here we go. And let me include here a comma. And I'm going to click on a few options that I like to do. So this is that I want the numbers. And let's do Control Enter. And here you go. And let me do it step by step. And then I'm going to do FMT. This is for the decimal cases. Equals 2, and then dot 1G. Let me do Control Enter. Here we go. I prefer it like this. I think it's easier to visualize. Center, this is for the color scheme in a way, and equals 0. Let's do Control Enter. So it's slightly varied because the color scheme just increased in general. And then comma, color maps. So C map. I like cool warm. So cool warm, and let's do Control Enter. You can see that the color scheme has changed. And now to make it a bit nicer, it is about the borders in these rectangles. So line width equals to 1. Let's do Control Enter. And you can see that they come out in white, but I'm going to change the line color equals to black. And let's do Control Enter. And this part over here, I'm going to change it because I want it to be up. So Control X and then Control V. Let's do Control Enter one last time. And here you go. Let's interpret. So super interesting. So rating and affairs, they are correlated negatively. Like for those who don't know what the correlation is, the correlation measures the strength of a relationship between two variables, meaning that we are measuring, for instance, the strength of the relationship between affairs and rating, which is minus 0.3, meaning it's negative. If the rating is higher, people are less prone to have affairs. This, in a sense, makes sense. What's also interesting is that between affairs and religiousness, it's minus 0.1, but basically, it's nothing. What can be interesting as well is rating and age, meaning that the older people are, the less happy they tend to be. Or we can say that love does not grow with age. That being said, I'll stop here. Be sure to check out the blog post. Be sure to check out my secret discount portal. And until the next time, have fun.